President Zelensky's chief of staff has accused Russia of waging a war on Ukrainian civilians in response to military defeats. It follows missile strikes overnight on a resort near the Black Sea port of Odesa. The emergency services say 19 died and more than 30 others were injured in the attacks. Our correspondent Joe Inwood is in Kiev, and gave us this update earlier.
It was actually a resort town just to the west of Odesa where the missiles struck. An apartment building, as you said, a 9-storey apartment building, pretty much destroyed by one missile, and a resort hit by another. It's about 19 people died so far. There are still searches going on, though, at the resort. They are fearful they will find more bodies there. What's interesting, as you mentioned, is that this happens just hours after the Russians were forced to retreat from Snake Island. That iconic, that strategically important outcropping of rock in the Black Sea, which people may remember from the start of this conflict, when the defenders of Snake Island gained some celebrity here in Ukraine, became national heroes for telling the flagship of the Black Sea fleet of the Russians to go away in no uncertain and rather more florid terms. But it's also been a key strategic point where there's been battles over it ever since. And the Ukrainians have had success in the last 48 hours of basically destroying the garrison there, the Russian positions, and forcing them to retreat back. Now, as you mentioned, there was some hope that that would ease the pressure on places like Odesa. But I think that process, if it is going to ease pressure on Odesa, is going to take quite a long time. We're talking weeks, maybe months, rather than days and hours. And as we saw last night, Odesa and the Black Sea coast of Ukraine is not safe.
Well, Joe, just stay with us for a moment if you can, because in the last couple of hours, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has been speaking via video link to Ukraine's lawmakers, and she urged Ukraine to press ahead with anti-corruption reforms, saying that European Union membership is within reach.
Your European path and the reconstruction of the country will go hand in hand. Ukraine will be in the lead. Massive investments will have to come, but to maximize their impact and to foster business confidence, investments will have to be coupled with a new wave of reforms. Today, Ukraine is the only country in Europe's Eastern Partnership to have adopted a law to break the oligarchs' grip on your economy and political life. And I commend you for that. Now you have to focus on the implementation of this law.
Ursula von der Leyen there. Well, Joe, I mean, in practical terms, how far is there to go for Ukraine to get through this sort of huge political hurdle, and what difference would it make?
It's really quite a long way to go, I think. I think everyone here, and the timelines people have spoken about are in terms of years rather than months, in terms of meeting the really quite strict criteria that the European Union set as a condition for joining the bloc. Corruption is particularly an issue. It has been for years. I think it's one that President Zelensky has been trying to deal with. I think in many ways the war has given a greater urgency to that. You might think, there are bigger issues to deal with, but I think here they feel that this is exactly the time you need to deal with corruption. When you've got huge amounts of money pouring in, you need to make sure that it's going to the places where it's intended to go, because it really is a matter of life and death for people. So I think they are going to try and work through this, but they know that these things take a long time. To root out systemic corruption, to change the way the economy works, to improve governance, these things don't happen overnight. There is a long road for Ukraine and to make it sort of its journey to becoming a fully fledged member of the EU. But I think they have demonstrated, and they have said so far, and indeed Ursula von der Leyen said this as well, that they demonstrate a European mindset. And I think it is a journey they are taking with some gusto.
Joan Wood there.